Henry Lucas is a name that sends shivers down the spine of many. This infamous figure, born in 1936 in Virginia, became one of America's most notorious serial killers. Lucas claimed, over time, to have committed hundreds of murders across the United States, but his confessions are a mixture of chilling admissions and contradictory tales that leave experts puzzled. To appreciate the complexity of Henry Lee Lucas's confessions, it is important to first consider his background. Lucas was born into a troubled family. His mother was a prostitute, and his father was an alcoholic. The environment of chaos and neglect that surrounded him during his formative years shaped his psyche in ways that would later manifest in his criminal activities. With a childhood marked by abuse and instability, Lucas grew into a troubled individual whose path ultimately led to violence. Lucas's criminal activities began with petty crimes, but his direction soon took a dark turn. His first known murder occurred in 1960 when he killed his mother in a fit of rage. After serving time, he relocated and vanished into a world of criminality. It was not until he was arrested in 1983 for unrelated crimes that he began to confess to a staggering number of murders. His confessions varied in detail and credibility, leading law enforcement officials on a complex journey to try to verify them. What makes Lucas's confessions particularly unsettling is the sheer volume of them. He claimed to have killed as many as 600 people. This astonishing number raised alarms and demands for investigations, as the authorities tried to piece together the timelines and circumstances surrounding each alleged murder. However, as further scrutiny was applied to his claims, the veracity of many of his confessions came into doubt. A recurring theme in Lucas's recounting of his actions is what psychologists refer to as a desire for notoriety. The attention he received for his confessions seemed to provide him an odd sense of gratification. In the interviews, he would sway between articulating graphic details of his alleged crimes and then backtrack, suggesting he might have embellished these stories for fame. A notable example arises when he took investigators across state lines to supposedly identify crime scenes, only to backtrack later, claiming he had made up his claim. This pattern of inconsistencies introduces an intriguing layer to his confession. For instance, in one case, he confessed to the murder of a young girl who had vanished over a decade earlier. However, authorities later discovered her remains had been identified and linked to another individual. This revelation raised serious doubts about Lucas's credibility. Investigators found that out of the dozens of cases he linked himself to, many were either already solved or could not be substantiated at all. Ultimately, the chilling nature of Henry Lee Lucas's confessions reveals the complexity of his psychological profile. Was he truly a prolific killer, or was he simply a man consumed by the lure of stories and moral ambiguity? His narrative presents a compelling study on the nature of confession, the quest for recognition, and the boundaries of truth and fiction within the criminal mind. Despite the numerous cases attributed to him, only a handful of murders can be definitively linked to Lucas through concrete evidence. Many law enforcement agencies across the United States recognized the complications in validating his claims, leading to the realization that his confessions often stemmed from a mix of desire for attention, manipulation, and mental instability rather than factual recounting of events. Lucas was convicted of 11 homicides, yet the true number of victims remains a mystery. The media frenzy surrounding his confessions often overshadowed the complexities of understanding such a figure. In the realm of criminal psychology, Lucas's case serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of sensationalizing confessions without rigorous examination. The true impact of Henry Lee Lucas's life and confessions stretches beyond mere statistics. It paints a grim portrait of the individuals involved in the criminal justice system and the challenges faced in discerning the truth in a world rife with deceit. The chilling tale of his life compels one to ponder the darkness that can reside within a human being and the quest for understanding what drives such actions and confessions. As society continues to grapple with the aftermath of such chilling confessions, it pushes the boundaries of how we understand crime and the motivations behind it. Henry Lee Lucas stands as an enigmatic figure whose chilling disclosures remind us that the line between truth and fiction can sometimes be terrifyingly blurred. The Zodiac Killer is one of America's most infamous serial killers, a figure shrouded in mystery and intrigue. The story begins in the late 1960s, when a series of murders occurred in Northern California, primarily in the San Francisco Bay Area. The killer, whose identity still eludes investigators and the public alike, became known as the Zodiac Killer after he began sending letters to local newspapers. These letters contained not only taunting messages, but also cryptic ciphers that challenged readers to decipher their hidden meanings. The first confirmed murder attributed to the Zodiac Killer took place in December 1968, when high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were shot near Vallejo, California. This tragic event marked the start of a series of killings that would leave an indelible mark on the region and create a wave of fear among its residents. Each of the murders bore unique characteristics, and the killer seemed to derive a twisted sense of satisfaction from eluding capture while toying with law enforcement. What set the Zodiac Killer apart from other criminals was the way he engaged with the public and the media. In July 1969, he sent his first letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. It was not just a simple confession, but a theatrical proclamation that included a chilling dialogue, encouraging the police to try and catch him. He signed his letters with a symbol, a circle with a cross through it, which became his infamous signature. But it was the ciphers that truly captivated the public's attention. The first cipher, known as the Z408, contained 408 characters and was sent along with one of his letters. He challenged the recipients to solve it, and in a twist of fate, it was cracked by a local couple, Donald and Betty Harden, who managed to decode the message. The cipher contained an unsettling message that referenced the killer's motivations, suggesting a fascination with murder. The success of this decoding only fueled interest in the case. Despite increased media coverage and various investigative efforts, the Zodiac Killer continued his spree, taking more lives. Two more victims, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau, were attacked in July 1969. This incident was particularly notorious, not only because of the violence, but also because Mageau survived the attack and was able to provide a sketch of the suspect. The police presence escalated, but the Zodiac evaded capture time and again. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Zodiac case was his ability to remain anonymous. In the years following the murders, several suspects emerged, but none were conclusively linked to the crimes. The investigators searched for clues, led them down various paths, including a suspected military connection and the possibility of a local serial killer. However, no evidence proved definitive enough to identify the man behind the various letters and crimes. In 1970, a letter that was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle included the infamous Zodiac's name, along with another cipher, this time even more complex than the first. He continued to toy with investigators, boasting of the number of people he claimed to have killed. Yet, as quickly as he came into the limelight, he seemed to fade away, leading to an eerie silence from the Zodiac over the years. This periodic silence would be interrupted by the occasional letter sent to media outlets, keeping the public intrigued. The case remained stagnant for decades, leading to various theories and speculation. Some suggested the killer had died or become incapacitated, while others believed he could very well be living among us, his identity well hidden. In the early 2000s, technological advancements in forensic science offered new hope to investigators. Cold case units began re-examining evidence, and the rising popularity of true crime stories kept the Zodiac's legend alive in the public eye. Numerous documentaries and podcasts explored every angle of the case, bringing new audiences to the mystery and inspiring a range of amateur sleuths determined to crack the code. In 2020, something remarkable occurred. A team of codebreakers, known for their expertise in solving historical ciphers, announced they had successfully deciphered one of the Zodiac killer's most infamous ciphers, a nearly 340-character puzzle sent in 1969. The message revealed a chilling, boastful letter about the killer's actions, reaffirming his need for notoriety. However, the identity of the Zodiac remained unchanged, continuing to baffle authorities and amateur enthusiasts alike. The enduring mystery surrounding the Zodiac killer raises questions about celebrity and infamy. Why did he taunt the police while evading capture? Was it a true desire for recognition, or was it part of a deeper psychological need? This case continues to capture the imagination of many, and each new attempt to solve it leads to more theories, research, and debate. While many details about the Zodiac killer remain unsolved, his legacy persists through the lens of media, literature, documentaries, and public fascination. The desire to unmask the identity of one of the most notorious figures in American crime history is stronger than ever. As modern forensics, media tools, and continued public interest converge, the hope for closure, be it for the victims' families or the community at large, still echoes amidst the shadows of a dark time in American history. The case of the Zodiac killer serves as a stark reminder of the intersection between crime, media, and the human psyche. To this day, the mystery captivates, allowing a tragic narrative to live on, sparking curiosity and discussions that transcend generations. Each twist in the tale breathes life into a haunting puzzle that remains very much alive. Ted Bundy remains one of the most infamous figures in American criminal history, not only for his heinous acts, but also for the stark contrast between his outward persona and the darkness that lurked beneath. Known for his intelligence and charisma, Bundy was able to navigate through society, winning friends and influencing those around him, while secretly committing horrific crimes that would eventually lead to his infamy. Born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, Ted Bundy grew up in a seemingly normal household. However, his upbringing was not without its complexities. Raised by a single mother, his early life experiences quickly shaped a personality that was charming yet deeply flawed. He had a seemingly normal childhood, filled with friends and a promising academic future. However, as he transitioned into adulthood, cracks began to form in this facade. Bundy attended the University of Washington and studied psychology, where his intellect and charisma began to shine. He seemed to have everything going for him: good looks, charm, and a place in the social scene. Many described him as a likable, engaging individual. Yet, this charismatic exterior was merely a mask that hid a profoundly troubled individual. During this time, Bundy also began to develop a disturbing interest in violent pornography, a fascination that would later become an integral part of his disturbing psyche. As he continued to pursue his education, Bundy engaged in a relationship with a woman named Elizabeth Kloepfer, who would later become one of the key voices in recounting the complexities of his character. Bundy's relationship with Kloepfer was marked by both charm and manipulation. He often displayed kindness and attentiveness that masked his darker tendencies, showcasing his ability to blend seamlessly into the lives of those around him. As the 1970s rolled around, Bundy's double life took a sinister turn. He began his string of horrific crimes in Washington state, along with various other locations, including Utah and Colorado. His unsuspecting victims were often young women, whom he would lure with his charm. Using tactics such as feigned injury or requesting assistance, he would often approach them in a seemingly harmless manner. Once he gained their trust, his true intentions would become painfully clear. Despite the increasing number of disappearances and assaults linked to Bundy, law enforcement struggled to capture him. His ability to blend into society allowed him to evade capture multiple times. At points, Bundy even managed to escape from custody, demonstrating not only his cunning, but also his audacity. He was charming and articulate in his interactions, often winning over those who were tasked with apprehending him. Throughout his various arrests, Bundy maintained an image of the innocent man, often using his intelligence to manipulate legal proceedings and public perception. He represented himself in court, speaking confidently and convincingly as if he were the victim of circumstance. This ability to craft a narrative that portrayed him in a positive light contributed to his chilling notoriety. The public's fascination with Bundy grew exponentially during his trials. As details emerged regarding his crimes, the image of a charming, handsome young man stood in stark contrast to the horrific nature of his actions. He was often described as the all-American boy, allowing people to dismiss the reality of his crimes, believing that someone capable of such evil must look outwardly sinister. Bundy's charm was not just a tool for manipulation, it was his weapon of choice. He used it to engage with the public and law enforcement, creating a persona that was widely accepted until the overwhelming evidence could no longer be ignored. The media frenzy surrounding his trial painted a picture of a man of mystery, further adding to the allure that surrounded his case. As Bundy was ultimately sentenced to death, the duality of his existence became clearer. The man who had charmed so many and evaded capture for years stood trial for unspeakable acts. His life, filled with contradictions, served as a reminder of the complexities within human nature. Bundy was not just a monster, he was also a master of disguise, skilled at hiding the darkness that resided within. In the years following his capture and trial, Bundy's story continued to captivate the public's imagination. Documentaries, books, and films have explored the enigma that was Ted Bundy, dissecting the psychological aspects of his double life. His case has posed questions about the nature of evil, the capabilities of charm, and the dark corners of human psychology. Ted Bundy's legacy is a chilling reminder of how appearances can be deceiving. What lay beneath the surface of his charismatic personality was a web of horror and manipulation that shocked the nation. Understanding Bundy's complex persona challenges us to look beyond the surface, reminding us that true darkness can often be hidden behind the most charming facades. His story continues to serve as a warning that evil can take many forms, and that oftentimes it is the ones we least expect who harbor the darkest secrets. Jack the Ripper is one of history's most notorious figures, a name that has stirred intrigue and speculation since the late 19th century. Operating in the grimy streets of London's Whitechapel district in 1888, this unidentified serial killer is associated with a series of gruesome murders of women, many of whom were involved in prostitution. The case remains unsolved, shrouded in mystery, and it has sparked numerous theories about the killer's identity. Let us delve into the various hypotheses that have emerged over the years, exploring the clues and interpretations that have fascinated amateur sleuths and professional criminologists alike. One of the earliest theories points to a specific individual, Montague John Druitt. Druitt was a barrister and a schoolteacher, and he died by a drowning in the Thames shortly after the last of the canonical murders. His family had a history of mental illness, and some believe this contributed to his potential motivations. The timing of his death raised eyebrows, with some suggesting that he may have taken his own life out of guilt for the crimes. However, substantial evidence linking him directly to the murders remains elusive. Another candidate often mentioned in discussions of the Ripper is Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant who was committed to an asylum just after the murders. Kosminski had a documented history of mental illness and harbored a deep-seated hatred for women. Some investigators believe he fit the profile of a killer, particularly due to his presence in the Whitechapel area during the time of the murders. A key piece of evidence is a witness who claimed to see Kosminski at the scene of one murder. However, doubts remain regarding his actual culpability, as no definitive proof has surfaced to connect him to the killings beyond circumstantial evidence. There's also the theory that the Ripper could have been a doctor or someone with surgical training. Why? This idea stems from the manner in which the bodies were mutilated, suggesting a level of anatomical knowledge that a layperson may not possess. Some proponents of this theory point to various individuals who were known to be working in medicine at the time, including Sir William Gull, the royal physician. Conspiracy theories surrounding Gull suggest that he may have been part of a larger plot, possibly connected to the British elite or royal family. These outlandish claims, however, are often dismissed by scholars for lacking substantial evidence. Another captivating notion is that the Ripper was not one person at all, but rather a group of individuals working in unison. This theory posits that the killings could have been a coordinated effort, perhaps even for some twisted form of social or political commentary. Those advocating for this viewpoint often cite the differences in the styles of the murders as evidence that several murderers may have been at play, each with their unique methods and motivations. The idea of a collective might explain the varying degrees of violence exhibited in different cases, though the lack of a unified motive remains a challenge for supporters of this theory. Some investigations have even wandered into the realm of literary connections, notably suggesting that the killer was, in fact, the infamous author Lewis Carroll. Supporters of this theory highlight peculiarities in Carroll's writings and his connections to the Whitechapel area. However, this view is often viewed with skepticism, as the evidence linking Carroll to the murders is largely circumstantial and without substantial corroboration. Nonetheless, literary connections continue to enthrall those interested in the intertwining of true crime and literature. In more recent years, genetic genealogy has been employed in various investigations into cold cases, and some experts have applied this method to the Ripper case. By analyzing DNA found on materials that may have connections to the crime scene, researchers hope to unearth new leads. These cutting-edge forensic techniques offer a glimmer of hope to those seeking to resolve the mystery that has captivated the public for over a century. As we explore these theories, what emerges is a picture of a criminal case that is rife with uncertainty. Each theory holds its appeal and carries elements that captivate the imagination. The allure of Jack the Ripper lies not only in the unsolved nature of the crime, but also in the broader implications of such an investigation. The social conditions of the time, the misogyny that pervaded society, and the struggle for justice in an era where law enforcement was hampered by the limitations of their time. The Ripper's story serves as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can exist within humankind. As time marches on, Jack the Ripper remains a figure cloaked in shadows. The theories surrounding his identity continue to spark debate, drawing in new generations of historians, authors, and true crime enthusiasts. Whether he was a solitary malevolent figure, a group of conspirators, or possibly an individual hiding in plain sight, the quest for understanding this dark chapter in history endures. Each theory invites us to reconsider what we think we know about crime, humanity, and the myriad forms of evil that can emerge in the depths of society. In the early 20th century, New Orleans was a vibrant and bustling city, alive with jazz music, street parades, and rich cultural traditions. However, beneath this lively facade, a chilling mystery lingered, one that would grip the city with fear and fascination. This is the haunting tale of the Axeman of New Orleans, a figure whose identity remains unknown to this day and whose vicious attacks sent shockwaves through the community. The story begins in 1918, when the Axeman launched a series of brutal assaults against the residents of New Orleans. The victims were typically Italian immigrants or those of Italian descent, creating an air of suspicion and panic that permeated the tightly knit neighborhoods. The first known victim was a man named Joseph Maggio, who was attacked in his home late at night. The crime scene was horrific, with a deep gash across his skull from an axe. His wife, Catherine, was also brutally assaulted, leaving the community questioning who would be next. The fear escalated when, just a few weeks later, another couple, Charles and Rosie Cortimiglia, faced a similar fate. The Axeman had struck again, using the same method and leaving behind a scene that was as grisly as it was puzzling. What made this case even more chilling was the way the murderer operated. He often entered homes through an open door or window, attacked while victims were asleep, and left behind an axe, sometimes even one that belonged to the victim. It was almost as if the Axeman reveled in the panic he created, leaving the city frozen with terror. As the attacks continued, local newspapers began to cover the story extensively. Reports of each assault spread like wildfire, igniting fear in the hearts of residents. The Axeman's signature was his method of attack, and his choice of victims further fueled speculation. Many believed he targeted Italian families due to tensions stemming from organized crime in the city, while others feared that he was simply a madman. One of the most bizarre twists in this tale came in March 1919, when a letter purportedly written by the Axeman himself was sent to the New Orleans Times-Picayune. In the letter, he declared that he would strike again on a specific night, but also made an unusual request. He wanted the people of New Orleans to play jazz music when he came. He stated that if they did so, he would spare them from his wrath. The sheer audacity of the letter, combined with its theatrical elements, added an eerie layer to the mystery. As jazz bands took to the streets, following the Axeman's peculiar instructions, it became a strange community event to embrace the chaos that had befallen the city. Despite the efforts of local law enforcement and the widespread fear, the Axeman eluded capture. The police offered rewards for information leading to his arrest, but as quickly as he appeared, he vanished without a trace, leaving behind a thread of unsolved cases that would torment the authorities for years. With each fleeting moment, theories and conjectures flourished. Was he a single individual or a group? Did he live among the city's residents, hidden in plain sight? The mystique surrounding the Axeman didn't just vanish with the fading of the attacks. In fact, it deepened as the years progressed. Writers, historians, and amateur detectives have since delved into the story, piecing together clues and exploring possible connections to similar crimes. Some speculate that the Axeman may have been inspired by motivations tied to the Italian mafia, while others envision a more ominous presence, that of a serial killer blending in seamlessly with the melting pot that was early 20th century New Orleans. Even as the years turned into decades, the memory of the Axeman remained embedded in the culture of New Orleans. Countless tales and ghost stories arose, often told around campfires or during nighttime strolls through the historic streets. Some say they can hear the echoes of jazz music drifting on warm summer nights, a reminder of the unusual and dark chapters of the city's past. While some residents might dismiss these stories as mere folklore, the reality is that the Axeman's legacy continues to haunt not just the streets where he prowled, but also the minds of those fascinated by the unresolved case. The lingering questions provoke interest in true crime enthusiasts. Who was the Axeman? What drove him to such horrific acts? And why did he stop? As of now, the Axeman of New Orleans remains a chilling mystery, one that reflects the complexities of human nature, fear, and the darker sides of life hidden beneath the surface. The ambience of that era, coupled with the fervor of the city's jazz culture, has secured the Axeman a permanent place in the annals of unsolved mysteries. New Orleans, a city built on stories, keeps this eerie chapter alive as the search for answers endures through the generations. In the summer of 2007, a tragic event unfolded in the quiet town of Cheshire, Connecticut, capturing the attention of the entire nation. This incident, known as the Cheshire Murders, brought to light not only the horrors of a brutal crime, but also the far-reaching implications it had on a community and beyond. On a sweltering night in July, the Petit family was subjected to a heinous home invasion that would end in unimaginable tragedy. Jennifer Petit, along with her two daughters, Haley and Michaela, were violently confronted by two intruders who had entered their home. The two men, motivated by a combination of desperation and criminal intent, had been looking for whatever valuables they could find. What began as a simple burglary quickly escalated into a nightmare. The perpetrators, Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky, had formulated a plan that was both ruthless and chilling. As they cornered the family, it became clear that their intentions went far beyond mere theft. Over the course of the evening, the intruders subjected the Petit family to a series of horrific acts. Jennifer Petit was tied up and forced to reveal the location of valuables, while her daughters faced unspeakable horrors. Such brutality shattered the illusion of safety that many residents of Cheshire had taken for granted. Despite being a small, predominantly peaceful town, the events of that night revealed vulnerabilities and a darkness that could infiltrate even the most serene locales. The house on Granby Road, once a symbol of family warmth and security, was transformed into a scene of unimaginable horror. In the early hours of the morning, the tragic culmination of the intruders' actions shocked the community to its core, altering the very fabric of life in Cheshire. The aftermath was a reflection of the profound impact such violence can have on a community. Neighbors banded together to support one another, while questions began to arise about safety, security, and how such an event could occur in their midst. Public outcry grew as more details of the crime emerged, leading to a renewed discussion about criminal justice, prevention, and community vigilance. The town witnessed vigils and ceremonies to honor the memory of the Petits, spotlighting the need for compassion and solidarity in difficult times. The legal consequences for the perpetrators were just as gripping as the crime itself. Hayes and Komisarjevsky were arrested and put on trial, stirring a media frenzy that captivated audiences across the country. The courtroom became a stage where harrowing details of the events were recounted. The trials revealed the depravity of the men's actions, and they became emblematic of the worst parts of human nature. Ultimately, Hayes was sentenced to death, while Komisarjevsky received a lengthy prison sentence. Beyond the legal ramifications, the Cheshire Murders triggered a broader discourse on the nature of crime and punishment. Many in the community grappled with feelings of anger, sorrow, and a desire for justice. The Petit family's story echoed in the hearts of other families, resonating with fears of violence and law. Throughout the nation, conversations began about how society could better protect its citizens and ensure that such a tragedy would never be repeated. In the following years, the tragic events became the subject of books, documentaries, and discussions, serving not only as a case study in crime, but also as a touchstone for examining human behavior and societal norms. The impact of the Cheshire Murders extended beyond the confines of the court system, prompting reforms and discussions about home security, mental health, and the societal factors that contribute to criminal behavior. These narratives became a reflection of a community actively seeking to understand and heal from its scars. Today, Cheshire stands as a testament to resilience. The legacy of the Petit family has inspired many to promote safety and compassion within their own communities. The painful memories of that fateful night serve as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and care for one another. The community has engaged in initiatives aimed at preventing future tragedies, fostering an environment of awareness and support. As the years pass, the story of the Cheshire Murders continues to reverberate, not only as a tale of loss, but also as a source of motivation for change and a call to embrace humanity's better nature. The narratives built around this tragedy have become part of a larger dialogue about crime, safety, and the communal bonds that can help individuals heal and cope in the face of adversity. The events of that summer night will forever be etched in the memory of Cheshire, highlighting the enduring strength of a community in the face of profound sorrow. The Black Dahlia case is one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history, captivating the public's imagination for decades. The victim, Elizabeth Short, a young woman with dreams of stardom, was found brutally murdered in Los Angeles in January of 1947. Her death has since become synonymous with mystery, intrigue, and relentless speculation. Born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, Boston, Elizabeth Short was a spirited young woman. Her journey led her to California, where she sought to make it big in the film industry. Although she had aspirations of becoming an actress, her life would take a tragic turn that would define not only her destiny, but also ignite one of the most puzzling criminal investigations in history. On January 15, 1947, the body of Elizabeth Short was discovered in a vacant lot in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. Her body was cut in half, and the manner in which it was presented left law enforcement officials and the public in shock. She was drained of blood, and the horrific nature of the crime led to sensational media coverage, with newspapers eager to publish the gruesome details. The press dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a name that would become synonymous with her story, inspired by her dark hair and penchant for black clothing. As the investigation unfolded, numerous theories emerged regarding who could have committed such a heinous act. Several suspects were investigated, including a local doctor, various acquaintances, and even numerous anonymous tips yielding little in the way of definitive evidence. Many of these persons of interest had connections to Elizabeth Short, but none could be conclusively tied to the crime. One of the more compelling aspects of the Black Dahlia case is the public's fascination with the mystery surrounding it. Elizabeth Short became more than just a victim. She was a figure of intrigue. Her background and relationships were dissected as countless hypotheses arose about her life and the motivations behind her murder. Some theorists speculated that her ambition in Hollywood could have put her in the path of danger. Others pointed to the idea of a serial killer at work in Los Angeles during that time, with Short as just one of many victims. The media frenzy surrounding the case only added to the mystery. Police had to deal with countless tips, hoaxes, and even individuals claiming to be the murderer. Many of these tips seemed to lead to nowhere, further complicating the investigation. The sensational nature of the crime and the extensive media coverage turned Elizabeth Short's story into a spectacle, overshadowing the fact that the case represented a tragic end for a young woman with dreams unfulfilled. Over the years, numerous books, films, and documentaries have attempted to unravel the enigma of the Black Dahlia murder. Numerous authors have presented theories ranging from the bizarre to the plausible, each adding layers of complexity to the case. For example, one popular theory involves the involvement of a powerful figure in Hollywood, indicating that Elizabeth Short's aspirations may have intersected with darker undercurrents in the film industry. However, despite the vast amount of attention, the case remains unsolved, and Elizabeth Short's killer was never brought to justice. Decades later, her story continues to resonate with those who seek to understand the motives behind such a brutal act. The storyline is layered with elements of fame and tragedy, intertwined with societal issues of the time, such as women's rights and the role of the media. Even today, new information occasionally resurfaces, sparking renewed interest in the case. Law enforcement agencies occasionally revisit the evidence, aiming to re-examine clues with advancements in technology that could potentially break the long-standing silence surrounding the case. There is hope that one day the truth will emerge. With advancements in forensic techniques like DNA analysis, there is a glimmer of possibility that Elizabeth Short's story could reach a resolution. In a way, the Black Dahlia case has transcended its origins to become a symbol of unresolved mystery, emblematic not just of a crime gone unsolved, but also of the complexity of human nature and the drive to uncover the truth. Elizabeth Short's life and unfortunate demise serve as a reminder of the fragility of dreams and the shadows that often accompany ambition. The questions that surround her story persist, fueling interest for future generations and ensuring that she will not be easily forgotten. The Black Dahlia case remains a chilling reminder of the dark sides of fame and societal perceptions. It serves as a narrative that compels people to seek justice for those whose voices have been silenced. In the annals of true crime, the mystery of Elizabeth Short endures, captivating minds and inspiring stories that echo her tragic life. Her legacy continues as both a reminder of a horrid crime and as a reflection of the human quest for understanding in a world filled with enigmas. In the small town of Villisca, Iowa, a chilling mystery unfolded one fateful night in June of 1912. The quiet rural community was rocked by a crime so terrible that it still captures the imagination of true crime enthusiasts over a century later. This is the story of the Villisca Axe Murders, a case filled with unanswered questions, haunting details, and an atmosphere of dread that continues to pervade this tiny Midwestern town. On the night of June 9, 1912, the Moore family, consisting of parents Josiah and Sarah and their 4 children, along with 2 neighborhood girls who were sleeping over, settled into bed in their 2-story farmhouse. The peacefulness of that night shattered when an unknown assailant, wielding an axe, broke into their home. Hours later, the lifeless bodies of 6 individuals were discovered, brutally murdered in their sleep. The scene was shockingly horrific, with the attacker showing no mercy, leaving an indelible mark on this tight-knit community. What makes this case particularly perplexing is the sheer number of unanswered questions that it leaves in its wake. Who was the murderer? Why did they choose the Moore family? Was the killer someone from the town or a passing stranger? These inquiries swirl endlessly, echoing through the corridors of time, and leaving those intrigued by the case desperate for answers. One of the most baffling aspects of the Villisca axe murders is the manner in which the crime was committed. The killer used the family's own axe, discovered at the scene, which raises eyebrows about the possible motivations behind the gruesome acts. For weeks leading up to the attacks, the community was both horrified and transfixed. Investigators quickly descended on the town, prompting extensive interviews, searches, and a slew of speculation. Despite numerous leads, the investigation remained cold, and potential suspects were never conclusively linked to the crime. Local lore surrounding the case has grown over the years, with various theories emerging about who could have been responsible for this tragic event. Some believe that the killer may have been the obscure figure of a transient or perhaps even a local who harbored dark motives. For example, one of the most notorious suspects was a traveling salesman who appeared in the area around the time of the murders. However, he was never charged, leaving many to wonder if he could have slipped through the cracks of justice. As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered a series of disturbing details that added layers of complexity to the case. Numerous witnesses reported seeing suspicious individuals lingering near the Moore's home in the days leading up to the murders, but these tips led to nothing solid. Furthermore, there were oddities left behind at the scene, such as the killer's decision to cover the victims with blankets and remove certain items from the home. These seemingly intentional acts suggested a deeper motive, or perhaps a psychological twist that could provide insight into the mind of the murderer. The investigation reached a fever pitch, drawing attention from news outlets across the country. A courtroom trial ensued when a local man, charged with the murders, stood trial amid a media frenzy. The trial became a spectacle, drawing crowds eager to witness the proceedings. Yet, ultimately, lack of evidence led to an acquittal, and the case was left unsolved, a gaping wound in the historical fabric of the town. Over time, the Villisca axe murders transformed into a source of fascination, not only for locals, but for outsiders intrigued by the macabre and unsolved. Ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts began to visit the Moore home, now preserved as a historic site. Reports of strange noises, unexplainable occurrences, and a pervasive sense of melancholy fill the house where such unspeakable horrors transpired. Visitors today often describe a heavy atmosphere, a palpable tension in the air, as if the shadows of the past still linger, seeking resolution. The stories of the Villisca axe murders remind us of the vulnerability inherent in life and the often elusive quest for justice. It is a case reflective of a time long past, while also eerily relevant in discussions about crime and its impacts on communities. As years turn into decades and then into centuries, the quest for answers continues to spark curiosity, and the legacy of the Moore family endures in the haunting silence of that tragic night. As we reflect on the Villisca axe murders, we are not just pondering a historical event. We are opening a doorway into the complex interplay of fear, tragedy, and the relentless search for truth. Each layer of speculation and every forgotten detail weaves an intricate tapestry of a mystery that lingers, reminding us of the fragility of life and the echoes of those lost in the shadows of time. The town of Villisca continues to hold its breath, waiting for the day when perhaps the darkness surrounding this unspeakable crime may finally disperse, revealing secrets long buried but never forgotten. Ed Gein is often referred to as one of the most notorious figures in American crime history, not merely for his horrific actions, but for the dark legacy he left behind, a legacy that has permeated popular culture inspiring some of the most iconic horror films of all time. Born in 1906 in La Crosse, Wisconsin, Gein's childhood was marked by a strict and abusive upbringing, dominated by a mother who instilled in him a mix of admiration and fear. She was a deeply religious woman who preached about the immorality of the world, which left a profound and disturbing imprint on Gein's psyche. Gein spent most of his life in solitude, isolated on a farm that was situated far away from others. His adult life was marked by the death of his mother, which profoundly affected him. After her passing, Gein became increasingly withdrawn, struggling to cope with his sense of loss. In this isolation, he began to indulge in increasingly disturbing behaviors, stepping far beyond societal norms and into the realm of horror. Over the years, his fascination with death grew into something far more sinister. Gein's crimes were not just acts of violence, but were rooted in a bizarre obsession with creating and fashioning objects from human remains. The true extent of Gein's acts was revealed when authorities inspected his home in 1957, uncovering a terrifying scene. The police discovered numerous items constructed from human skin and bones, masks, suits, and furniture pieces that had been meticulously crafted. This grotesque artistry brought to light the disturbing realities of his psyche, as he seemingly sought to create a connection to the dead, perhaps a twisted tribute to the mother he had so idolized. The revelation of Gein's crimes sent shockwaves through the nation, changing the landscape of how society viewed serial killers. His actions were not just shocking on the surface. They hinted at deeper psychological issues that fascinated criminologists and psychologists alike. Gein's disturbing legacy extended into the realms of cinema and literature, paving the way for countless horror stories. His influence is evident in characters like Norman Bates from Psycho and Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. These characters, while fictional, embody aspects of Gein's reality: isolated lives, twisted familial relationships, and horrific acts rooted in psychological torment. The character of Norman Bates, portrayed in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, is perhaps one of the most famous representations, drawing inspiration from Gein's life. Bates is characterized by his unstable personality, which reflects Gein's own struggles and warped attachments. The film delves into themes of identity and madness, showcasing how tragic pasts can lead to horrifying realities. The suspenseful atmosphere and psychological depth present in Psycho have made it a timeless classic, illustrating how Gein's life inspired narratives that explore the complexities of the human mind. In a different light, Gein's legacy is seen in the character of Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This film presents a gruesome depiction of rural America, drawing on the fear of the unknown that lies in isolation and darkness. Leatherface, equipped with a chainsaw and a face crafted from human skin, serves as a visceral representation of Gein's grisly handiwork. The film itself becomes a commentary on family dynamics in a distorted reality, akin to the complicated relationship Gein had with his mother. Gein's story has also incited discussions surrounding the nature of evil and the roots of violent behavior. Scholars and psychologists have sought to understand how an individual could devolve into such monstrosity. His life raises important questions about isolation, trauma, and the effects of a toxic upbringing. In modern society, discussions about mental health and its impact on behavior often reference historical figures like Gein, who serve as reminders of the complexities surrounding psychological crises. Moreover, Gein's legacy serves to bridge the gap between fact and fiction, leading to an ongoing fascination with true crime. Documentaries and books continue to explore the depths of his life and the ramifications of his actions. This not only contributes to the cultural narrative of horror, but also serves as a cautionary tale about the hidden darkness that can exist within society. As we dive into the life of Ed Gein, we uncover layers of human psychology, the impact of familial relationships, and the horrifying path that can result from trauma and isolation. The chilling echoes of his story continue to resonate today, influencing countless filmmakers, writers, and artists, urging audiences to grapple with the boundaries of fear, morality, and the human condition. Through the lens of horror, Ed Gein reminds us that sometimes the most chilling tales emerge not from the supernatural, but from the harrowing realities of human life and the darker facets of the mind. In the history of aviation and crime, few tales are as perplexing and captivating as that of D.B. Cooper. This enigmatic figure has become a part of folklore, a symbol of daring ambition, and a mystery that has puzzled authorities and amateur sleuths for decades. The story begins on November 24, 1971, when a man using the alias D.B. Cooper boarded a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland, Oregon, to Seattle, Washington. Described as a middle-aged man in a dark suit and tie, Cooper blended in with the other passengers. He appeared calm and composed, even as he handed a note to a flight attendant. The note, which initially seemed innocuous, revealed a shocking ultimatum. Cooper claimed he had a bomb and demanded a ransom of $200,000, as well as 4 parachutes and a safe passage for the plane to land in Seattle. Though the situation felt tense, Cooper's demeanor remained surprisingly relaxed, and he even engaged in casual conversations with the crew. The plane, carrying 36 passengers and a crew of 6, was instructed to fly to Seattle. Authorities scrambled to meet Cooper's demands, gathering the ransom money and parachutes while ensuring the safety of everyone on board. Meanwhile, Cooper calmly shared a drink with the flight attendants, maintaining an air of confidence despite the high-stakes situation unfolding around him. After a tense negotiation, the aircraft landed safely in Seattle. Cooper allowed the passengers to disembark, but he retained several crew members as hostages. With the ransom money and parachutes secured, he provided the flight crew with detailed instructions on how to proceed. He sought a unique flight path, specifically requesting that the aircraft fly low and slow. With the plane in the air again and heading towards a secluded area of Washington, Cooper's plan began to unfold. Shortly after taking off, with the crew fully compliant to his instructions, D.B. Cooper made his dramatic move. At some point during the flight, he opened the rear stairway door and jumped out of the plane into the dark, stormy night below. This moment would be the last time anyone would officially see Cooper. The Boeing 727, now free from its hijacker, landed safely, the crew in disbelief over the audacity of the event they had just witnessed. The aftermath of Cooper's leap generated an immense manhunt. The FBI launched one of the most extensive investigations in U.S. history, tracing every lead and analyzing the aerodynamics of his jump. Teams scoured the rugged terrain of the Pacific Northwest, dealing with rough weather, dense forests, and treacherous hillsides where Cooper might have landed. The investigation turned up some promising leads, but each one seemed to vanish as swiftly as the man himself. Several possibilities were considered. Many speculated that Cooper must have had some knowledge of aviation and parachuting, given the precision of his demands and the planning involved in his escape. Various witnesses claimed to have seen a man resembling Cooper in the vicinity after the skyjacking, but these sightings often led to dead ends. As time passed, the case began to cool, though it never fully disappeared. A community of amateur detectives and enthusiasts became enamored with the mystery. Books, documentaries, and countless articles were created to explore every angle of the story. The lure of D.B. Cooper captured the imagination of the public, and the legend of the hijacker grew, becoming a part of American pop culture. In 1980, a breakthrough came when a young boy found a package containing $800 in cash along the Columbia River, with serial numbers matching those given to Cooper as ransom. This discovery reignited interest in the case and offered a tangible connection to the elusive hijacker. Despite this finding, Cooper remained unfound, and the identity of D.B. Cooper continued to be a mystery. Over the years, theories emerged regarding who D.B. Cooper could be. Some suggested that he perished in the jump, lost forever in the wilderness. Others believed he could have successfully landed, gone underground, and perhaps started a new life far from his past. Notable names have emerged over the years, with amateur detectives speculating on identities, some of whom even had compelling evidence to support their claims. Despite the investigation officially concluding in 2016, the mystery of D.B. Cooper is far from solved. The case continues to captivate and intrigue people of all ages. From conspiracy theorists to investigative journalists, everyone seems to have a theory or a story about the elusive hijacker. Even now, new insights and potential leads appear from time to time, reigniting the debate. In popular media, Cooper has been romanticized, portrayed in films, books, and even songs that celebrate his audacity and cunning. The allure of his narrative lies not just in the act of the crime, but in the sheer mystery of his disappearance. Who was D.B. Cooper? What drove him to commit such an extraordinary act? For many, the unanswered questions are what makes this story so compelling. The enigma of D.B. Cooper represents more than just a hijacking. It serves as a reminder of the complexity of human nature and the limits of our understanding. As each year passes, new generations continue to explore this famous mystery, hoping to unlock the secrets that have eluded countless experts and keep the legend of D.B. Cooper alive. Will the truth about this notorious figure ever be uncovered? Perhaps it's better for the mystery to continue to thrive, leaving the adventurous spirit of D.B. Cooper to inspire and intrigue for years to come. In the remote Bavarian countryside of Germany, the small and isolated Hinterkaifeck farm became the site of one of the most perplexing and chilling cases in criminal history. In March 1922, a family of 6 was brutally murdered on their own property, leaving behind an unsolved mystery that has haunted investigators and intrigued true crime enthusiasts for generations. The victims were the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, his wife, Cecilia, their daughter, Victoria, her husband, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, and the couple's 2 young children, who were all killed in a horrific act of violence. The murders occurred over the course of several days, with the evidence suggesting that the assailant remained on the farm for a period of time after committing the first murder. The scene was gruesome, with each member of the family meeting a brutal end. The dark shadows of the farmhouse seemed to reflect the horror that unfolded within its walls. What makes the Hinterkaifeck murders particularly fascinating is not just the brutality of the crime, but also the eerie circumstances surrounding it. Before the murders, Andreas Gruber had mentioned peculiar occurrences on the farm, such as strange footprints in the snow leading away from the house and unusual sounds emanating from the property. These odd happenings were dismissed at the time, but in hindsight, they add layers of intrigue to the story. The investigation that followed the discovery of the bodies was extensive, but ultimately fruitless. There were no signs of forced entry, which led to the theory that the murderer may have been someone familiar with the family, perhaps even someone who had been welcomed into their home. This created a chilling sense of mistrust among the community, as speculation swirled about who might have committed such a heinous act. Despite the involvement of local law enforcement and forensic experts, concrete leads were scarce. Witnesses were interviewed, suspects were scrutinized, but nothing conclusive emerged. Over the years, numerous theories and suspects have been proposed, ranging from a vengeful family member to a psychotic drifter, but none have ever been definitively proven. One of the most notable aspects of this case is how it highlights the limitations of forensic science during that era. The investigative tools and techniques available in the early 20th century were rudimentary compared to what we have today. Evidence, such as blood samples and fingerprints, were not collected in a systematic way, leaving many questions unanswered. The lack of modern technology contributed to the case remaining open for decades, with the specter of the unsolved murders lingering over the farm. As the years passed, the notoriety of the Hinterkaifeck murders grew. The farm itself fell into disrepair and was eventually abandoned, becoming a haunting landmark that drew curiosity seekers and those fascinated by the macabre. Stories and folklore surrounding the murders began to emerge, suggesting the farm was cursed or inhabited by restless spirits. Local legend transformed the site into a focal point for ghost hunters and the superstitious. Investigators who have revisited the case in more recent times have attempted to apply modern investigative techniques to the evidence available. Some have suggested that new developments in genealogy and DNA testing could potentially shed light on the identities of long-forgotten suspects. However, despite the renewed interest, the core mystery remains just that, a mystery. The Hinterkaifeck murders invite reflection, not only on the nature of evil, but also on the fragility of safety in seemingly peaceful surroundings. They remind us that behind the facade of rural tranquility, darker elements can lurk, hidden from plain sight. The farm represents a point in history that encapsulates fear, trust, and the unsettling reality that sometimes justice is never served. As time marches on, Hinterkaifeck serves as a chilling reminder of the unsolved cases that continue to captivate the human psyche. It urges us to question the unknown, to ponder the stories of those who have come before us, and to explore the dark corners of history that remain veiled in mystery. Who were the Gruber family, and what events led to their tragic end? Artifacts, documents, and whispers of the past echo through the years, enticing those who seek the truth. In the end, the case persists, an unsolved riddle that speaks to our enduring fascination with the mysteries of human existence, cruelty, and the shadows that dwell in our world. Charles Manson is a name that evokes shock and intrigue. He was the leader of a cult known as the Manson family, a group that became infamous for a series of brutal murders in the late 1960s. Understanding the influence of Manson requires delving into the psychology of manipulation, the dynamics of groupthink, and the cultural backdrop of the era. Born on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati, Ohio, Charles Manson had a troubled childhood. By his teenage years, he had already experienced a life of crime and instability. After spending time in various reform schools and prisons, he became adept at manipulating others. Manson's particular skill was in exploiting the vulnerabilities of those around him. This ability to control and influence others would come to define his later life. The 1960s was a time of social upheaval in America. The counterculture movement emerged, advocating for peace, love, and freedom. While promoting ideals of community and happiness, it was also a period rife with disillusionment, particularly among the youth. Manson adeptly tapped into this disaffection, presenting his philosophy as an alternative to what he depicted as a corrupt, broken society. He preached a message of love and unity, though his methods soon became sinister. Manson attracted a diverse group of followers, many of whom were young, impressionable individuals seeking a sense of belonging and purpose. They found that, in his charismatic presence, living in communes in the Californian desert, the Manson family adopted a lifestyle that rejected societal norms. Manson created an environment where loyalty to him was paramount, and this fostered an unbreakable bond among his followers. One of the remarkable aspects of Manson's influence was his ability to induce fear and paranoia. He often spoke of an impending race war, which he dubbed Helter Skelter, borrowing from a Beatles song. He convinced his followers that they needed to take drastic actions to incite this chaos, framing it as a necessary step toward salvation. Through a combination of psychological manipulation, drug use, and isolation from the outside world, Manson maintained a hold on his followers that bordered on cult-like fanaticism. In August 1969, Manson ordered his followers to commit a series of gruesome murders. The most notorious incident occurred on the night of August 8, when members of the Manson family invaded a home in Beverly Hills, killing actress Sharon Tate and 4 others. This murder shocked the nation and marked a turning point in American culture, illustrating the dark potential of manipulation and blind allegiance. The brutality of these acts served as a stark contrast to the ideals of love and peace that were central to the counterculture movement. As the investigation unfolded, the chilling details of the Manson family's activities emerged. Manson's followers committed various crimes, including theft, drug trafficking, and ultimately murder, all while under his influence. Manson was not present at the scene of the murders, but was charged with conspiracy to commit those killings, demonstrating how a leader can orchestrate violence from behind the scenes by manipulating his followers. The trials that followed ignited media frenzy, with the public captivated by the courtroom drama, Manson's extreme behavior, and the unsettling charisma he projected. Manson and his followers became symbols of a fractured society, embodying the fears of a generation. The Manson family's crimes highlighted how easily individuals can be led astray when they are taken advantage of during vulnerable times. In understanding the Manson phenomenon, it becomes evident how deeply psychological manipulation can run. Manson utilized a mix of charm and intimidation, shaping a distorted reality for his followers. He instilled in them a sense of urgency and a mission that felt larger than themselves. This psychological grip transformed ordinary individuals into perpetrators of unimaginable horror. The legacy of Charles Manson and his cult continues to influence popular culture and the public's understanding of cult dynamics. Documentaries, films, and books delve into these events and explore the ramifications of blind faith in a leader. Manson's story serves as a chilling reminder of how charisma, combined with exploitation of fear and vulnerability, can lead to catastrophic consequences. Though Manson was imprisoned for life and eventually died in 2017, the questions surrounding his manipulation linger. How could a man so deeply flawed wield such power? What drove his followers to commit such heinous acts? These inquiries continue to fascinate and horrify, reminding us of the complexities of human nature and the dark potential that resides within it. In examining the Manson family, we uncover deeper truths about society, the search for meaning, and the dangers posed by persuasive leaders. The Manson case urges vigilance against manipulation and highlights the importance of critical thinking and awareness. In the end, the story of Charles Manson is not just about crime. It is a complex exploration of influence, control, and the human capacity for both following and leading in often perilous directions. In the heart of the 1930s, a dark chapter of American history unfolded in Cleveland, Ohio. This was a time marked by the Great Depression, where survival was a daily battle for many, yet lurking beneath the city's struggles was a sinister presence that would earn a place in the annals of true crime. What we know now as the Cleveland Torso Murders stands as one of the most unsettling mysteries, a series of gruesome killings that sent shock waves through the community and continue to captivate investigators and historians alike. The story begins in 1935, when the dismembered body of a man was discovered near a rail yard in Cleveland. The victim had been brutally mutilated, a fate that became alarmingly common in the months to follow. As police investigated this first grisly find, they were unaware that they had stumbled upon a vastly more intricate and terrifying pattern of violence than they initially thought. The identity of the first victim was eventually confirmed as a known criminal named Edward Andrassy. But this grim discovery was just the beginning. Over the next 2 years, the bodies of at least 12 individuals were uncovered, all showing similar marks of violence. The killer exhibited a peculiar method, leaving behind decapitated heads and dismembered limbs in various locations around Cleveland. Each crime scene contributed to a growing sense of dread among the community, while local police struggled to make sense of the killer's intentions and identity. What made these murders particularly haunting was the sense of chaos and the seemingly random choice of victims. Families, young men, and even women found themselves unwittingly caught in the web of this brutal rampage. For example, victims such as the young girl, known only as the Lady of the Lake, added an element of eerie mystery. Her body was discovered in the Cuyahoga River, submerged yet still echoing the horror of her fate. Throughout the investigation, a number of theories emerged, each one more chilling than the last. Some speculated that the murders were the work of a single perpetrator, a deranged individual whose motivations were rooted deeply in psychological abnormalities. Others believed the crimes could be linked to organized crime in the city, as Cleveland was known for its connections to mafia activity during this period. The city was filled with secrets, and the possibility of a shadowy figure operating amidst its very fabric was both gripping and terrifying. Police efforts were met with limited success. Despite extensive investigations, numerous tips, and a barrage of media attention, the identity of the killer remained a mystery. The homicide investigation was riddled with obstacles, including a lack of forensic tools that are commonplace today. The case was further complicated by the sheer number of murders and the chaotic atmosphere of the time. Each piece of evidence was meticulously examined, but leads often led to dead ends. Public fascination with the Cleveland Torso Murders only intensified as the press reported daily on new developments, each headline more sensational than the last. The chilling nature of the crimes kept the community on edge. People feared venturing out alone, especially at night. Frightening scenes painted the backdrop of life in Cleveland, as citizens whispered about the torso killer, the ghost haunting the streets, and the dread of becoming the next victim. In a desperate attempt to draw out information about the murders, police launched community events, hoping to solicit public support. However, these calls for help often fell on deaf ears amidst the growing paranoia. The fear that enveloped the city was palpable, morphing into a sustained unease that gripped families, as many kept their doors locked and windows secured. Years passed, and with time, the crimes took on the aura of urban legend. The killer vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a legacy of unsolved cases. In fact, the mystery of the Torso Murders fascinated writers and filmmakers for decades, weaving tales that dived into the dark psychology of a criminal lurking in the shadows. Some parole officers seeking to understand the mind of killers found the Torso Murders an essential study, revealing how fear can distort community behavior and recognition. In the late 20th century and into the 21st century, the Cleveland Torso Murders resurfaced in popular culture through documentaries, books, and podcasts that sought to dissect the details and explore theories anew. Historians ventured into the records and narratives, trying to piece together the fragmented history of the case. The combination of disbelief, terror, and the allure of the unknown keeps this dark story alive. What remains undeniable is that the Cleveland Torso Murders are a testament to a time when fear gripped a city and a mystery that highlights the complexities of human violence. The narrative continues to capture imaginations and inspire questions about the unsolved nature of crime, the depths of human depravity, and the shadows that can linger in history. Each passing year serves as a reminder of lives lost and a killer who may still walk among us, hiding in the quiet corners, uncharacteristically blending into society. The Cleveland Torso Murders remain a stark reminder of the darkness that can lie just beneath the surface of everyday life, beckoning us to confront the eerie complexities of humanity. The disappearance of Natalee Holloway remains an enduring mystery that has captured the collective attention of people around the globe. It all began in May 2005, when Natalee, an 18-year-old high school graduate from Alabama, traveled to Aruba with her classmates to celebrate their recent graduation. It was meant to be a fun-filled trip, filled with laughter and new experiences. Little did anyone know that this vacation would turn into a case that still puzzles investigators and captivates countless individuals worldwide. On May 30th, 2005, Natalee was last seen leaving a popular nightclub called Carlos and Charlie's Deutscher. Witnesses reported seeing her with a group of local men, one of whom was later identified as Joran van der Sloot, a Dutch national. Eyewitness accounts of that night are mixed, with various reports suggesting differing scenarios that paint a confusing picture of the events that transpired. As the hours turned into days, the worry began to mount among Natalee's family and friends. The local authorities launched an extensive search operation, combing the beaches, the ocean, and the nearby areas for any sign of the young woman. Divers searched the waters surrounding the island, and volunteers joined in efforts to locate her. The search became more than just a local endeavor. It drew international media coverage, leading to increasing public interest in the case. As investigators delved deeper into the evidence, the attention shifted towards those who were last seen with Natalee. Joran van der Sloot, along with two other young men, became significant figures in the investigation. Their accounts of what had happened that night varied and raised suspicion. Van der Sloot, in particular, became a focal point due to his history and behavior. His demeanor during interviews was noted as odd, fueling the flames of intrigue surrounding his involvement. As time went on, the investigation faced numerous challenges. Different theories emerged, and investigators pursued various leads, but none led to conclusive results. The questions surrounding Natalee's fate continued to haunt her family, with her mother, Beth Holloway, taking a prominent role in the search for answers. She became a dedicated advocate, not only seeking justice for her daughter, but also raising awareness about other missing persons. Her relentless pursuit resonated with many, highlighting the emotional toll of her loss. The case also saw its share of twists and turns. Throughout the years, Joran van der Sloot's statements about Natalee's disappearance shifted, making it even more complex. He was arrested multiple times, but the lack of physical evidence meant that concrete charges were difficult to establish. The investigation sparked widespread debate over the effectiveness and transparency of law enforcement in handling the case, particularly in a tourist destination like Aruba. In 2010, a significant development occurred when van der Sloot was arrested in connection with the murder of another young woman, Stephanie Flores, in Peru. This shocking event reignited interest in Natalee's case, as many now viewed van der Sloot through a darker lens, believing he might have been involved in Natalee's disappearance. His relationship with Natalee, coupled with his demonstrated violent tendencies, added weight to the theory that he could hold the key to the mystery. Despite extensive media coverage and ongoing investigation, the case remained unsolved. Many theories continued to circulate, a mixture of conjecture, hope, and heartache. Some believed Natalee may have met with an accidental fate, while others suspected foul play. Each theory painted different possibilities, yet none brought peace to her family or closure to a community that had watched the tragedy unfold. The impact of Natalee Holloway's disappearance extended far beyond her immediate family. It sparked discussions about tourism safety, the behavior of young people abroad, and the responsibilities of both attendees and establishments in ensuring a safe environment. Natalee's story has been featured in documentaries, books, and countless articles, contributing to enduring conversations about missing persons and the importance of vigilance in travel. Even years later, the case serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of circumstances. Each anniversary of Natalee's disappearance brings renewed attention as her family continues to seek answers. The hope for resolution hangs in the air, echoing through the hearts of those who remember the bright young woman, full of promise, whose life was abruptly interrupted. The mystery surrounding Natalee Holloway's disappearance in Aruba is a poignant reminder of how the search for truth can often lead to more questions than answers. Each layer of the investigation reveals a complex interplay of emotions, speculation, and human behavior. While some may seek closure through resolution, the story serves a more significant purpose, urging us to reflect on the bonds of family, the importance of community support, and the ongoing quest for justice in the face of tragedy. Even in darkness, there can be light, as Natalee's legacy continues through the ongoing search for understanding and accountability. The journey may be complex, but the collective desire to honor her memory moves forward, urging us to never let the unknown remain forgotten. The Boston Strangler case remains one of the most infamous murder mysteries in American history, captivating the public with its blend of fear, intrigue, and unsolved questions. This complex narrative revolves around Albert DeSalvo, a man who claimed to be the notorious Boston Strangler. DeSalvo's confessions included the chilling details of the brutal murders of 13 women in the early 1960s, leaving a significant mark on the city of Boston and the nation. To understand the gravity of the case, it's essential to consider the social context of the early 1960s. This was a time when America was shifting from the post-war era into a new, uncertain modernity. The Boston Strangler's crimes created a palpable tension within the community, as the general public grappled with the fear of a seemingly random and predatory killer hiding in their midst. The media, at the time, played a critical role, sensationalizing the narrative, which only added to the anxiety felt by the residents of Boston. Albert DeSalvo was born in 1931 in Chelsea, Massachusetts. His early life was marked by instability and dysfunction, including a troubled family background. As a young adult, DeSalvo engaged in various criminal activities, primarily involving theft and burglary. However, his criminal record took a darker turn when he claimed responsibility for the Boston Strangler murders while incarcerated for other offenses. DeSalvo's first confession came under less than ideal circumstances, as he revealed the details while talking to fellow inmates. His descriptions were vivid and shocking, drawing the attention of investigators. The police and the public responded with a mix of intrigue and horror as they began to piece together the gruesome details surrounding the murders. Notably, the victims were typically older women, found in their homes, often in vulnerable states, leading to widespread fear in the community. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement officials began to suspect DeSalvo might not be entirely truthful. While his confessions contained specific details only known to the police, questions arose about the accuracy of his accounts. Some believed he might have been fabricating his role to gain notoriety or to negotiate for better treatment while in prison. Further complicating the case were inconsistencies in DeSalvo's confessions and the evidence collected from the crime scenes. For example, DeSalvo confessed to murders that were not conclusively linked to him, and some victims were found in ways that did not match his descriptions. Additionally, the forensic technology of the time was not as advanced as today's methods, leaving many details open to interpretation. The matter was further muddled by the public's fascination with DeSalvo and his story. Some individuals sought to sensationalize the events, turning the serial murders into a form of entertainment, as movies and books began to document the shocking tale. This media coverage contributed to a broader narrative that painted DeSalvo as a monster, exaggerating and distorting aspects of his story for commercial gain. In 1973, Albert DeSalvo was killed in prison under questionable circumstances. His death raised even more questions than answers. Had he truly been the Boston Strangler? Or was he merely a man who had confessed to crimes he did not commit? The debate continues, with some experts saying the police had other suspects who could have been the actual killers, making DeSalvo's narrative one of the most controversial in criminal history. To this day, the case continues to draw interest from researchers and amateur sleuths alike, with new theories emerging regarding the possible involvement of other individuals in the crime. The myriad of theories suggest that DeSalvo may not have acted alone. Some believe that his confessions were a cover for one or more accomplices, leading to a series of questions about justice and culpability. The impact of the Boston Strangler case reverberates throughout American culture, influencing countless novels, films, and television shows. The story serves as a cautionary tale about the intersection of media sensationalism, criminal justice, and public panic. It illustrates how fear can shape narratives and drive social behavior, even decades after the events themselves. In conclusion, the Boston Strangler case and Albert DeSalvo's confessions remain a labyrinth of intrigue and mystery. As researchers continue to delve into this enigmatic episode in criminal history, the complexities remind us how these chilling events have become interwoven with the fabric of American storytelling. Through a blend of fear and fascination, the case will likely continue to inspire discourse and debate for generations to come, challenging the boundaries between truth, fabrication, and unadulterated terror. The tragic story of JonBenét Ramsey is one that continues to captivate and baffle people around the world. It revolves around the untimely death of a young girl who was not just an ordinary child, but a beauty queen with a bright future. JonBenét was only 6 years old when her life came to an abrupt and mysterious end in Boulder, Colorado, during the Christmas season of 1996. The circumstances surrounding her death remain one of the most talked about unsolved mysteries in modern American history. On the morning of December 26, 1996, JonBenét's mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a ransom note in their home. The note demanded a significant sum of money for the safe return of JonBenét, suggesting that she had been abducted. However, what made this case even more perplexing was what was found next. The family called the police, leading to a chaotic scene filled with confusion. Hours later, while searching their own home, JonBenét was found in the basement of her house. Tragically, she was deceased. The details of JonBenét's death are both haunting and unsettling. She was discovered with marks around her neck, which indicated that she had been strangled, and her mouth was covered with duct tape. The young girl's death was ruled a homicide, but the investigation revealed more questions than answers. Initial evidence suggested the possibility of an intruder. Yet as the investigation proceeded, many began to look closely at the Ramsey family members, leading to a swirl of theories and speculation. Many people found themselves fascinated by the ransom note. It was unusually long and seemed to be written in a way that suggested familiarity with the Ramsey family. Critics questioned the authenticity of the claim that an outsider had committed the crime, instead suggesting that it was a setup. The note also contained references that seemed almost peculiar, and some even claimed it mirrored the writing style of Patsy Ramsey. This has led to numerous conspiracy theories regarding whether the ransom note was a genuine attempt at kidnapping or a fabricated story intended to conceal the truth. In the years since her death, many theories have emerged regarding what happened that fateful night. Some theories suggest the possibility of an accidental death. Some have speculated that JonBenét may have succumbed to an accident, and the family could have panicked, leading them to stage a kidnapping. This theory was bolstered by inconsistencies reported by witnesses and even members of the Ramsey family. Others theorize that an intruder entered the Ramsey home that night. Various people have claimed to have seen a suspicious individual near the Ramsey residence on the day of JonBenét's death, fueling the idea that a stranger may have been responsible. Different forensic evidence has come to light over the years, including DNA testing, that has pointed toward potential suspects outside the family. The media's portrayal of the case added another layer of complexity. The Ramsey family was thrust into the spotlight and faced intense scrutiny, and although they maintained their innocence, they struggled against the public perception that painted them in a negative light. This case opened up discussions around parental grief and the invasive nature of media coverage during a tragedy, challenging how society responds to such heart-wrenching scenarios. Despite numerous investigations, a plethora of theories, and years of search for answers, JonBenét's case remains officially unsolved. Law enforcement has revisited the case multiple times, hoping to uncover new leads or fresh evidence. But as of today, JonBenét Ramsey's death remains a riddle wrapped in layers of intrigue, fear, and tragedy. The impact of this case reaches far beyond the confines of Boulder, Colorado. It sparked national conversations about child safety and the vulnerabilities of young children. The haunting imagery of JonBenét's innocent childhood, juxtaposed with the dark events surrounding her death, encouraged advocacy for victims' rights and prevention measures. As we reflect on the story of JonBenét Ramsey, we are reminded of the fragility of life and the mysteries that often lie intertwined within it. The continued interest in her case demonstrates humanity's natural inclination to seek answers and make sense of incomprehensible events. It encourages conversations around justice, memory, and the importance of safeguarding the innocence of children, ensuring their stories, though tragic, are never forgotten. The legacy of JonBenét Ramsey endures, not just as a tale of loss, but as a poignant reminder of the ongoing quest for truth, understanding, and healing in the face of tragedy. This case beckons us to question, to learn, and to remain vigilant in our efforts to protect the most innocent among us. The Monster of Florence is a chilling and perplexing subject that has intrigued many for decades. This mystery revolves around a series of brutal murders that took place between 1968 and 1985, in the picturesque countryside surrounding Florence, Italy. It is not only the grisly nature of these crimes that captivates, but also the intricacies of the investigation, which has bewildered law enforcement and amateur sleuths alike. The murders typically involve couples who were seeking privacy in remote areas, often found in parked cars. The assailant would strike with a fierce, almost ritualistic precision, leading to heinous acts that shocked the nation and left a deep scar on the otherwise serene landscape of Tuscany. Over the years, there were multiple victims, each murder echoing the last, creating a horrifying pattern that compelled the media and the public to engage deeply with the case. The first confirmed murder occurred in 1968 when a young couple, 24-year-old college student and his girlfriend, were found murdered in their car near the town of Scandicci, just outside Florence. The brutality of the act was staggering, and as more couples were murdered in subsequent years, the killer became known as the Monster of Florence. What was particularly unsettling was not just the methodical nature of the killings, but the apparent lack of a motive, which led to a plethora of theories surrounding the identity and reasoning behind the monster's actions. As investigators dug deeper, they encountered a web of lies, false leads, and controversy. Many believed that the monster was not just a single individual, but perhaps part of a larger conspiracy. The case garnered attention from various arms of law enforcement, igniting a media frenzy and attracting numerous amateur detectives. With each new lead and subsequent dead end, the mystery deepened. One striking aspect of the Monster of Florence case is the way it encapsulated elements of Italian culture and society. The countryside, with its rolling hills and serene vineyards, provided a stark contrast to the horror unfolding within its bounds. This juxtaposition heightened public interest, leading many to question how such violence could occur in such a seemingly peaceful environment. Rumors swirled about potential suspects. Some suggested that the perpetrator could be linked to the local hunting community, drawing upon the killer's apparent knowledge of rural Italy. Others pointed fingers at organized crime, suggesting that the murders might have been a form of retribution or a message to others. The search for the real monster became an obsession, not just for the police, but for the whole nation. The case took many twists and turns over the years. In one instance, a man was arrested and eventually convicted. However, he maintained his innocence, and numerous appeals later led to a verdict of not guilty. The legal battles alone provided endless fodder for the media, who seemed to revel in the twists and turns of this real-life thriller. The courtroom drama added another layer to the story, as the public desperately sought answers to questions that lingered. Each discovery made by investigators was met with a mix of hope and despair. New leads would emerge, only for them to fizzle out into nothingness. For many, the idea of finding the Monster of Florence became a symbol of the broader struggle against evil and the unknown that resides in every society. The notions of justice and resolution hung in the air, tantalizingly close, yet always just out of reach. Over the years, attempts to piece together the motivations and patterns behind the murders resulted in various psychological profiles being drawn up, each more perplexing than the last. These profiles examined the possible upbringing and social environment of the killer, suggesting that the monster must have experienced significant psychological trauma to commit such atrocities. The impact of the Monster of Florence case also extended beyond Italy, captivating an international audience. Documentaries, books, and media exposés have been made, each adding new insights, theories, and interpretations. These narratives often oscillate between horror and fascination, examining not just the crimes themselves, but the fear they instilled in the public consciousness. Today, even decades later, the story of the Monster of Florence continues to evolve. New technologies enable ongoing investigations to resurface, and with advancements in forensic science, hope persists that answers may finally emerge. The question remains, however, whether the truth will ever be revealed, or if the mystery of the monster will forever haunt the shadows of Tuscany. As we delve deeper into the legend of the Monster of Florence, it serves as a reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the dark side that can lie beneath even the most serene surfaces. The allure of this enduring mystery captivates not just the curious mind seeking answers, but also those drawn in by the sheer depth of the unknown and the macabre. The story invites us to ponder the nature of evil, the enigma of silence, and the chilling reality that sometimes the monsters we fear most are those lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to emerge from the shadows. In the early 20th century, the small town of Opelousas, Louisiana, was shaken by a mysterious case that would capture the attention of the nation. The story of Bobby Dunbar is a remarkable tale that blends elements of disappearance, identity, and family drama. It begins in the summer of 1912 when 4-year-old Bobby vanished while on a family fishing trip. His family, worried and terrified, searched tirelessly for him. They enlisted the help of the community and even initiated a widespread search that lasted for months. As days turned into weeks with no sign of young Bobby, hope began to dwindle. What happened to him? Was he lost in the woods? Or had something more sinister occurred? Just as the case seemed destined to remain unsolved, there was a breakthrough. A man named William Cantwell Walters claimed that he had seen Bobby, and that he had the boy with him. Walters was arrested in 1913, and the drama began to unfold. The police brought in Walters and the young boy he had with him to face Bobby's parents. Amazingly, they identified the child as their missing son. Thus, the reunion was celebrated as a joyous miracle. The family took Bobby home, and the story was initially met with relief and happiness. However, as the months went by, questions began to arise regarding the veracity of the claims made by the Dunbar family. Many locals were skeptical. Some noted that the child who returned did not retain many of Bobby's characteristics. He struggled to recognize familiar places, and the memories he shared often contradicted those of his family. Rumors began to swirl. Could this be the same boy who had disappeared, or had a different child taken his place? As the public's curiosity intensified, investigators delved deeper into the truth. They unearthed conflicting testimonies and even questioned the legitimacy of the supposed identification. While some witnesses insisted that Bobby was indeed identifiable by his physical traits, others were less convinced. This led to speculation that the child, reunited with the Dunbars, might not have been Bobby after all. What made this situation particularly complex was the impact of the case on social identities and how families viewed their children. The Dunbars faced the media frenzy and public scrutiny, garnering both sympathy and criticism. The societal pressure turned monumental, complicating their grief and the longing to find closure surrounding their son. Despite the many unanswered questions, the story took a further twist. In 1914, a boy named Bruce Dunbar was declared missing, and astonishingly, a different child who fit his description was found shortly thereafter. The possibility of mistaken identity in one case led to wider debates about who the Dunbars' true Bobby was. This intrigue transformed into speculation surrounding identity and the very nature of family ties. As the years went on, the case cast a long shadow over numerous lives. Many who engaged in the investigations were left inevitably pondering the ethical implications of identity discovery. What if the boy who returned was not Bobby, but someone else entirely? How would that alter the essence of familial bonds and attachments? To add to the complexity, subsequent DNA testing in modern times raised more questions than it answered. Could the family have been reunited with a different child? Someone who claimed to be Bobby? Nursery rhymes and folklore surrounded Bobby's story as it became a part of American cultural lore. As time progressed, descendants of the Dunbar family began to unravel the story for themselves, piecing together the fragmented histories. They actively sought to explore family trees and bloodlines, hoping to reveal the truth behind the missing child. Generational debates surfaced, as some believed in Bobby's innocence, while others questioned the validity of the claim. Though Bobby Dunbar's identity remains an enigma, the legacy of his story has spurred countless discussions and theories, while serving as a reminder of the profound impacts of loss. It illustrates the lengths people will go to for closure and the haunting uncertainties that often accompany the search for the truth. Years have passed since Bobby Dunbar's case made headlines, but it continues to live on as a compelling mystery, challenging our understanding of childhood, family, and identity itself. This fascinating case not only serves as a reflection on early 20th century America, but it also compels us to consider the fundamental questions of identity, belonging, and what it means to be part of a family. So many stories intertwine within the fabric of Bobby Dunbar's legacy, and even today, we remain curious about the truth behind this historical narrative. What would it be like to walk in the shoes of Bobby Dunbar, or to be part of a family so intricately tied to a mystery that has persisted through the ages? The story of Bobby Dunbar is more than about a lost boy. It spans discussions on identity, the pursuit of truth, and the emotional intersections of love and loss. Through the ages, the mystery of Bobby continues to resonate, reminding us that sometimes the human experience can leave us with more questions than answers, prompting us to dig deeper into the stories of our past and to shine a light on the intricate tapestry of humanity. In the lush and verdant landscapes of Washington State, a dark chapter in criminal history unfolded, capturing attention and instilling fear among the residents. This is the story of the Green River Killer, a figure whose chilling reign of terror began in the late 1970s and extended into the early 1990s. The very mention of the name conjures haunting images of disappearances and a relentless search for justice. The journey begins in the city of Seattle, a bustling metropolis known for its stunning waterfront and rich history. However, beneath the surface of this vibrant city lay a grim reality. In the summer of 1982, authorities began to discover bodies of young women along the banks of the Green River, a peaceful waterway that would soon become infamous. The victims were primarily associated with the world of prostitution and struggled with addiction, which added layers of complexity to the investigation. As the police began to piece together the puzzle, the unsettling nature of these crimes quickly became apparent. Each victim shared a tragic story of lost promise, and the search for their killer would evolve into one of the largest and longest manhunts in American history. The police found themselves racing against time as the Green River Killer continued to elude capture, leaving behind a path of sorrow and questions that echoed in the hearts of the families and friends of the victims. In the face of mounting pressure, law enforcement agencies employed a variety of investigative techniques. They examined crime scenes meticulously, searched for any piece of evidence that could lead them to the killer. A forensic profile was developed, offering insights into the personality and behaviors of the suspect. The methods of police work in this era were evolving as detectives utilized emerging technologies to aid in their quest. As investigators delved deeper, they found themselves entangled in a web of fear and uncertainty. Each discovery of a new victim reignited the search, and the community became enveloped in anxiety. Vigilant citizens began to report suspicious activity, heightening the alertness around the region. Across the state, women were reminded of the dangers lurking in the shadows, while families clung to hope that justice would eventually be served. Amid the sorrow, the perseverance of the detectives remained unwavering. They organized task forces and pooled resources from various agencies, striving to outsmart a killer who was always one step ahead. The media spotlight intensified, and the public's interest was piqued. As news outlets reported on the unfolding saga, they humanized the victims, bringing attention to their lives rather than relegating them to mere statistics. In 1983, the case took a key turn when the bodies of more victims were discovered, which demonstrated a horrifying pattern. Investigators began to establish connections between the victims and potential suspects, conducting interviews with numerous individuals in the area. Many individuals were scrutinized, but the elusive nature of the killer meant that leads often fizzled out without concrete evidence. As the years passed, technological advancements began to shape the course of the investigation. The incorporation of DNA evidence transformed how crime scenes were analyzed, allowing detectives to revisit previous leads with fresh perspectives. In a case that had once felt insurmountable, these modern techniques offered a beacon of hope. After more than a decade of relentless pursuit, a breakthrough arrived in 2001. Gary Ridgway, a local truck driver who had been a person of interest for years, was finally apprehended. A breakthrough in DNA technology linked him to several of the Green River murders, a profound moment that gripped the nation. Ridgway's confession unveiled the horror behind his actions and detailed the chilling reality of his motives. He admitted to killing multiple women and provided insights into the complexity of his mind, a tapestry woven with darkness and despair. The resolution of the case was bittersweet. While families finally had answers, the revelations were staggering and painful. Gary Ridgway came to be known as the most prolific serial murderer in American history, with over 40 confirmed victims. As he pleaded guilty to the charges, his calm demeanor raised questions regarding the nature of evil and the intricate psychology behind such heinous acts. The aftermath of the investigation led to a renewed focus on victim support and advocacy for those affected by violence. It also underscored the importance of community involvement and awareness in preventing future horrors. The Green River Killers saga serves as a dark reminder of the shadows that can lurk even in places of beauty, but it also highlights the resilience of a community that ultimately came together to seek justice. As the years pass, the legacy of the Green River Killer continues to resonate. It initiated conversations about societal issues, criminal psychology, and the dark realities faced by vulnerable populations. The hunt transformed not just law enforcement practices, but also public perception of safety and the complexities of justice. This chilling chapter in Washington's history invites us to reflect on the intertwined narratives of hope, loss, and the unyielding human spirit in the face of darkness. The case of the Long Island serial killer is one that has captivated and horrified the public since it first came to light. It is a chilling narrative filled with mystery, fear, and a seemingly unending quest for justice. This serial killer, also referred to by the moniker Villisca, is believed to be responsible for the deaths of multiple individuals, most of whom were involved in the sex trade, and their bodies have been discovered along the Ocean Parkway, which stretches from Brooklyn to Montauk, a popular getaway location on Long Island. The story begins in 2010, when the disappearance of a young woman named Shannon Gilbert led authorities to search for her in the vast and marshy expanse of Long Island. During this search, police stumbled upon the remains of several bodies, revealing a grim reality that sent shockwaves across the nation. The victims were primarily women, and many of them had connections to the world of escorting, making the investigation into their deaths even more complex and very sensitive. Among the victims recovered from the area known as Gilgo Beach, several names stand out. Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Amber Costello, and Megan Waterman are just a few of the women whose tragic fates became intertwined with the mystery of this case. The circumstances of their disappearances and subsequent discoveries raised countless questions regarding their lives and the individuals who may have been involved in their disappearances and deaths. What makes the Long Island serial killer case particularly unsettling is the level of planning and potential modus operandi displayed by the perpetrator. Investigators noted that the bodies were often found in close proximity to one another, posing possible links between the murders. Each of the victims had been wrapped in burlap, suggesting that the killer took calculated steps to cover their tracks, while also displaying a certain level of control over the situation. This method of disposal has raised speculation among law enforcement and crime experts about the psychological profile of the suspect. The investigation into the Long Island serial killer has faced numerous challenges. The complexity of the case is heightened due to the nature of the victims and their lifestyles. Many were vulnerable women living in precarious circumstances, often operating outside the law, which led to questions about the credibility of witness statements and the potential for underreported cases. Victims outside the known list have even been suggested over the years, leading to skepticism about the number of casualties involved and the length of time the killer operated without detection. The fascination with the case isn't only about the macabre details. It stems from the ongoing search for answers. Despite extensive investigations, including numerous searches of the area by police and private investigators, the identity of the killer has remained elusive. Advances in forensic science have provided some hope, as new methods of DNA analysis have emerged, but to date, no definitive leads have surfaced. The lack of closure has left families devastated, unsure of what happened to their loved ones, and haunted by the absence of justice. Furthermore, the case gained extensive media coverage over the years, leading to a variety of theories and speculations regarding the identity of the perpetrator. From the suggestion that the killer could be someone with intimate knowledge of Long Island, perhaps a local resident or a former law enforcement officer, to more elaborate theories involving organized crime, the realm of possibilities seems vast and perplexing. Investigators have explored countless leads, but the anonymity of the killer has made it increasingly difficult to connect the dots. As time has passed, one of the most troubling elements of this case is the potential for the killer to still be operating undetected. The possibility that new victims could emerge adds a layer of urgency to the investigation. The haunting thought of a murderer who remains at large, evading the law, lingers in the minds not just of law enforcement, but of the community at large. There have been calls from the public for a renewed focus on the case, emphasizing the importance of not only catching the individual responsible, but also addressing the societal issues tied to the lives of the victims. Advocacy groups have emerged to support the families, seeking to bring attention to the story of each woman and remind the public that beyond the headlines are individual lives with dreams and aspirations cut tragically short. As we look at the Long Island serial killer case, it serves as a deeply unsettling reminder of the darkness that can exist in society. It is a narrative woven with threads of tragedy, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of justice. While the victims may have been forgotten by some, the need for answers has ignited a fire of determination among investigators and loved ones alike. The questions remain, with only time left to reveal the truth hidden in the shadows of Long Island. In the quiet, unassuming town of Snowtown in South Australia, a series of shocking events unfolded in the 1990s that would forever mark this small community with a dark legacy. The Snowtown Murders, often referred to as the bodies in barrels case, remain one of Australia's most notorious criminal stories. To understand the gravity and complexity of this case, it is important to delve into the background and the grim details that ensued. The story begins in the midst of the early 1990s, when a group of individuals, brought together by a shared sense of disenfranchisement and criminal pasts, converged in Snowtown. At the heart of this narrative was John Bunting, a man whose charismatic yet manipulative nature drew others into his orbit. Alongside him were accomplices, each with their own troubled histories, forming a group that would engage in a series of heinous acts. Bunting's ideology, steeped in a twisted worldview, aligned with a disturbing belief that certain individuals deserve to die. He was particularly fixated on those he labeled as undesirables, targeting people he perceived as sexually deviant or morally corrupt. This mentality laid the foundation for a brutal campaign that would culminate in unspeakable violence. As the story unfolds, we encounter the chilling details of the crimes. The victims, some known to Bunting and his accomplices, while others were total strangers, met with horrific ends. The group used manipulation and coercion to control and ultimately murder their victims. The gruesome methods employed were as shocking as they were calculated. The bodies of the victims were dismembered and stored in barrels, leading to the macabre moniker tied to the case. The turning point in the investigation came in 1999, when police stumbled upon a small community secret. Following a tip-off, authorities began to uncover the buried truth hidden within the barrels stored in a disused bank vault in Snowtown. The first alarming discoveries included human remains, which would later be identified as belonging to several missing persons who had fallen prey to this monstrous group. The sheer horror of the findings sent shockwaves through the nation, riveting public attention and evoking a sense of disbelief. As investigations continued, the extent of the crimes began to unravel. Evidence painted a picture of systematic cruelty and brutality. Witnesses who were once part of Bunting's inner circle began to testify against him, revealing the extent of the manipulation and coercion that led them down a path of no return. Key testimonies disclosed the atmosphere of fear that enveloped the group, showcasing how Bunting ruled with intimidation and threats, ensuring loyalty through fear, rather than companionship. The legal proceedings that followed were equally captivating. Bunting and his accomplices faced a series of trials that would captivate the nation. The media frenzy surrounding the case involved deeply chilling revelations that kept audiences riveted. Details of the gruesome methods of disposal, the sheer number of victims, and the overall scale of the crimes painted a grim picture of human depravity. Public interest soared, not only for the shocking nature of the events, but also for the insights into the psychology of the individuals involved. The outcomes of the trials brought some measure of justice, with Bunting receiving life imprisonment for his role in the murder. In the aftermath, the case sparked conversations about societal issues, such as mental health, the nature of crime, and the factors that lead individuals to commit heinous acts. The discussions transcended the immediate horror of the events, prompting society to reflect on the importance of recognizing warning signs and the need for intervention in the lives of those at risk. Years later, Snowtown remains a quiet town, but the shadows of the past serve as a constant reminder. Local residents continue to navigate life within a community overshadowed by such a dark chapter in its history. The impact of the Snowtown murders has left an indelible mark on both the community and the nation, leading to changes in law enforcement approaches, victim support, and community awareness initiatives. The story of the Snowtown murders acts as a cautionary tale, a somber reflection on the darkest corners of humanity. It brings to light the innate complexity of individuals and the factors that drive them towards violence. While the past is haunting, the lessons learned continue to resonate in discussions around crime prevention, mental health awareness, and community support. In revisiting this chilling chapter, one cannot help but ponder the intricacies of human behavior, the fragility of trust, and the profound implications of unchecked darkness. The Snowtown murders remain not just a criminal case, but a sobering journey into the depths of the human psyche, exploring how societal neglect and personal demons can manifest in the most horrifying ways. The legacy of these events, though tragic, serves as a poignant reminder of the need to foster understanding, empathy, and vigilance within our communities. In the late 1970s, a shadow loomed over northern England, instilling fear in its residents and changing the course of countless lives. This was the era of Peter Sutcliffe, a man who would come to be known as the Yorkshire Ripper. The very mention of his name evokes a chilling reminder of a dark chapter in British history, as he was responsible for a series of brutal murders, primarily targeting women in and around the city of Leeds and other parts of West Yorkshire. Sutcliffe's reign of terror began in 1975, and over the next 5 years, he created an atmosphere of anxiety that affected daily life. Women, in particular, felt vulnerable and unsafe, altering their routines and living in constant fear of an unpredictable assailant. The Yorkshire Ripper's victims ranged in age, backgrounds, and circumstances, illustrating a profound vulnerability that women faced during this era. Many people began to stay indoors more, avoid walking alone after dark, and even change their clothing choices to evade potential danger. The media played a significant role in shaping the narrative surrounding Sutcliffe. Sensational headlines and constant coverage kept the public's attention focused on the murders, feeding a mix of fear and fascination. The police investigations were scrutinized, leading to questions about their efficiency, effectiveness, and ability to secure justice. Despite numerous sightings and tips from the public, the investigation faced challenges due to a lack of physical evidence and a growing sense of frustration among both law enforcement and the public. One of the most notable aspects of this case was how it's often reflected in broader societal attitudes toward women. The Yorkshire Ripper's victims were often described in ways that highlighted societal biases and prejudices. Media representation at times was sensationalized, painting the victims in a light that reflected more on societal judgments than on their dignity and humanity. This created a narrative that not only victimized the women, but also illustrated the historical context surrounding gender and safety. The response to the murders, both from law enforcement and the public, was often clouded by ingrained stereotypes about women, which impacted how the investigation unfolded. As the investigation continued, Sutcliffe eluded capture until 1981, when he was finally arrested. The meticulous investigations that spanned years brought forth intense scrutiny regarding police methods, including the focus on the wrong suspect profiles, based on misconstructed assumptions about the victims' lifestyles. The subsequent trial of Sutcliffe exposed not just the horrific nature of his crimes, but the complexities of his mental state, which raised questions about the intersection of mental illness and violence, as well as the legal responsibilities regarding mental health in criminal cases. The trial rekindled public outrage, but also provided a moment for debate about the justice system. Sutcliffe was sentenced to life imprisonment, and though he would spend the rest of his days behind bars, the impact of his actions would resonate throughout the community and beyond. Survivors and families of the victims were echoed voices in the years following Sutcliffe's conviction, advocating for both remembrance and reform in societal attitudes toward violence against women. The Yorkshire Ripper case became a catalyst for changes in policing, particularly in the approach to serial crimes. Understanding Sutcliffe's behavior and the patterns of his offenses prompted law enforcement to enhance their methodologies in tracking and apprehending suspects. The case served as an early warning for recognizing the importance of domestic violence and the necessity for proactive measures to address gender-based crimes. The societal implications of Sutcliffe's reign of terror lingered long after his incarceration. Not only did it influence media reporting on crimes against women, but it also motivated activists and policymakers to push for stronger protections for vulnerable population. This case spurred conversations around public safety, the necessity of open dialogues about gender roles, and the need to dismantle systemic biases that allow violence against women to persist unchecked. Today, the legacy of the Yorkshire Ripper serves as a remembrance of the past, a reminder of the resilience of communities, and the ongoing journey toward justice and understanding. As we reflect on this tumultuous period, we recognize that these events can drive societal transformation. The Ripper's terror may have caused unimaginable pain, but it also acted as a beacon for change, highlighting the importance of vigilance, advocacy, and compassion in protecting those who are most vulnerable. It is a complex story that intertwines horror with a demand for progress, ensuring that the legacies of the victims are never forgotten and that lessons learned continue to shape a safer society for all. The story of Elisa Lam is one that entwines mystery, intrigue, and an unsettling series of events that captured the attention of the world. In February 2013, Elisa embarked on a solo trip to Los Angeles. As a young Canadian student, she was exploring the city and enjoying the freedom of travel. Her journey, however, took a dark turn that would lead to her disappearance and eventual discovery. Elisa was last seen at the Cecil Hotel, a historic venue known for its dark history, having been the site of multiple tragic incidents. She checked into the hotel on January 28th, but by February 4th, her family had not heard from her, and they reported her missing. This sparked a massive search effort, with both police and concerned citizens desperately seeking any sign of her. The hotel staff and authorities began combing through the premises, hoping to find clues that might lead to her whereabouts. Approximately 2 weeks after she was last seen, workers at the hotel began to notice issues with the water supply. Guests complained about the unusual taste and discoloration of the water. This prompted a maintenance team to inspect the rooftop water tanks, a standard procedure when complaints arose. What they discovered inside was horrifying: the body of Elisa Lam. The circumstances surrounding her death were perplexing and raised numerous questions. The authorities conducted a thorough investigation, including autopsy procedures, which confirmed that Elisa had died by drowning. However, the details surrounding her death remained shrouded in uncertainty. How did she end up in the water tank on the hotel's roof? The tank, situated high above the hotel, posed challenges for anyone trying to access it. It was clear the case was no ordinary one. Following her death, the public's fascination with Elisa Lam intensified, especially with the release of surveillance footage from the hotel. This footage, captured on the night she disappeared, showed Elisa behaving strangely in the elevator. She appeared to be hiding, pressing each button erratically and gesturing animatedly, seemingly in conversation with an unseen presence. This footage fueled countless theories regarding her state of mind leading up to her disappearance. Some speculated that she was experiencing a mental health crisis, citing her history of bipolar disorder as a potential factor. Others delved deeper, suggesting that supernatural forces might have been at play, given the hotel's notorious past and its association with tragic events. The Cecil Hotel had housed several other mysterious cases, including those of notorious criminals and suspected suicides, which only added to the fascination surrounding Elisa's case. As the theories circulated, internet forums erupted with discussions, and true crime enthusiasts began dissecting every piece of information available, from Elisa's background to the history of the hotel. This convergence of technology, social media, and inherency of human curiosity led to a multitude of interpretations surrounding what had happened to her. Elisa's case also ignited conversations surrounding mental health awareness. Many began to advocate for better mental health resources and support systems, recognizing that Elisa's struggles were shared by many, albeit in silence. The tragic nature of her story reminded individuals of the importance of compassion, understanding, and openness about mental health issues in society. In addition to the discussions of mental health, the story of Elisa Lam attracted attention due to the cultural significance of her background as a Chinese-Canadian individual. It prompted conversations about representation, the experiences of marginalized communities, and the media's responsibility in addressing these narratives. As the years have gone by, Elisa's mysterious case continues to resonate with many. Numerous documentaries and podcasts have been created, delving deeper into the story, examining the evidence, and offering varying perspectives. The quest for answers remains a topic of interest, blending elements of true crime, psychology, and societal reflection. Even as the mystery endures, Elisa Lam transformed from a tragic figure into a poignant symbol of the struggles many face with mental health. Her story is a reminder that beneath the surface, there are depths to explore and stories worth telling. As time passes, it remains essential to approach such sensitive topics with thoughtfulness and respect, ensuring that the human aspect of Elisa's life and struggles is never overlooked in the face of intrigue and speculation. Ultimately, the tale of Elisa Lam serves as a complex tapestry, rich in human experiences and societal reflections. It is a story of loss, the pursuit of truth, and the unfathomable mysteries that often surround life and death. Through her legacy, we are encouraged to open our hearts to the complexities of mental health, foster understanding, and remember the importance of caring for one another, especially in moments of crisis. Elisa's story echoes as a call to action, prompting dialogues that are crucial for creating a more empathetic world. In the summer of 1974, the serene landscapes of Cape Cod turned into a backdrop for one of the most perplexing mysteries in American history. A woman, forever linked to the haunting title of the Lady of the Dunes, was found lifeless on a remote stretch of the picturesque Cape's dunes. Her discovery, shrouded in fog and intrigue, raised a myriad of questions that have lingered for decades. The beaches of Cape Cod are typically bustling with sunbathers and children playing in the sand. However, on that fateful day in July, a local dog walker stumbled upon something far more sinister. A body, partially covered by brush and sand, lying in a secluded area of Race Point Beach. The lifeless figure belonged to a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, with strikingly beautiful features framed by long, blow-dried hair. Forensic examinations later revealed that she met with a violent demise, which only deepened the sense of tragedy surrounding her story. Despite the efforts of local authorities, the journey towards identifying the Lady of the Dunes became a daunting task. She was dressed in a blue bandana and a pair of cut-off jeans, which left detectives with few clues about her identity or background. Initially, authorities believed that she could have been a transient tourist drawn to the scenic shores of Cape Cod. Flyers were circulated, and numerous tips poured in, yet the mystery remained intact. The absence of fingerprints and dental records further complicated the investigation. This woman appeared to have no ties to the world, almost as if she had simply vanished. In the annals of unsolved cases, this mystery has captivated amateur sleuths and true crime enthusiasts alike. Theories abounded, and speculation ran rife. Some suggested that she was a victim of foul play connected to the vibrant counterculture of the 1970s, while others whispered that she was connected to organized crime. The tangled web of 1970s society contributed to the complexity of her case, intertwining various threads of potential leads that would ultimately lead investigators down dead ends. Visual arts began to play an important role in this enigma. Renowned forensic artist Frank Bender created a posthumous sketch of what the Lady of the Dunes may have looked like in life. His artistry aimed to capture the essence of her features and personality, providing a tangible representation for the public to connect with. The sketch not only sparked discussions around her possible identity, but also drew attention to the countless missing persons who never received the closure they deserved. As the years rolled on and seasons changed, the story of the Lady of the Dunes remained etched in the memory of Cape Cod residents. Local folklore grew around the edges of her tale, transforming her into a mysterious figure haunting the dunes. Some say that on quiet, moonlit nights, you can hear whispers echoing through the sand, as if she is trying to share her story with those willing to listen. The allure of her case lies not only in the darkness surrounding her death, but in the everlasting hope that one day the truth will shine through the fog of uncertainty. In 2021, the case saw a resurgence in interest when law enforcement officials partnered with genealogical technology to identify her. A process known as genetic genealogy involves using DNA samples to find familial connections, often leading authorities to make groundbreaking discoveries in previously cold cases. The advancements in DNA technology opened new doors, allowing the detectives to re-examine evidence that had remained stagnant for decades. The use of these modern techniques yielded promising results. Investigators began to trace potential family lines, connecting genetic links that suggested the Lady of the Dunes had connections to several areas across the United States. Given that the original identification efforts had failed, this new approach created a wave of excitement among those seeking resolution. Could the fog surrounding her identity finally be lifted? As this intriguing tale unfolds, the question remains, who was the Lady of the Dunes? Born out of the currents of time and tangled histories, her life story remains a mystery, yet to be fully unveiled. In the meanwhile, her case stands as a stark reminder of the complexities of human existence and the unresolved stories that linger in the shadows of our society. Each year, she reaches out to those willing to remember, illuminating the importance of every life, known or unknown. Through her story, we see the reflection of our shared humanity, an echo of the lives we may never know but are a part of. The Lady of the Dunes endures in memory and mystery, a figure poised between the known and the unknown, urging us to continue seeking truth and understanding in a world where many tales have yet to be told. Her identity may remain shrouded, but her spirit invites a deeper exploration of compassion, curiosity, and the enduring quest for connection in this vast tapestry of life. The Lady of the Dunes is not just a cold case. She is a reminder of the lives intertwined with our own, waiting for someone to remember them, to tell their stories, and to bring the warmth of understanding to the cool sands of the past. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann is a case that has captured the attention of people across the globe. It began on the evening of May 3, 2007, when 3-year-old Madeleine vanished from a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, Portugal. She was on vacation with her parents, Jerry and Kate McCann, and her younger twin siblings. One moment she was in her bed, and the next she had vanished without a trace. This incident has remained a topic of discussion for years, shrouded in mystery and speculation, with twists and turns that have kept the world in thrall. Initial investigations were launched swiftly. The local authorities acted quickly, with police interviewing potential witnesses and searching the area around the apartment. The McCann family, desperate for answers, appeared in the media, pleading for the safe return of their daughter. In a matter of days, the story spread from Portugal to the wider world, encompassing news outlets, social media, and the public imagination. As the case unfolded, the lack of concrete evidence and the absence of any credible leads only deepened the mystery. The night of the disappearance, Jerry and Kate had been dining at a nearby restaurant with friends. They checked on the children periodically, and during one such check, they found Madeleine missing. In those initial hours, police conducted searches, including scanning beach areas and surrounding neighborhoods, but no sign of the little girl was found. One of the complexities of the case arose from the media frenzy that followed. The coverage was intense, often sensationalized, which added pressure on the investigators, and sometimes depicted the McCann family in an unfair light. The sheer volume of speculation surrounding their actions that night led to a polarized public opinion. Some supported the McCanns wholeheartedly, believing them to be loving parents who were victims of circumstance, while others were quick to point fingers and suggest darker narratives. As the investigation progressed, several theories emerged about what may have happened to Madeleine. One prevalent theory suggested she may have been abducted by a stranger, a notion fueled in part by reports of an unidentified man seen near the family's apartment shortly before she disappeared. This idea led to widespread searches and appeals to the public for information. Posters of Madeleine, featuring her smiling visage, appeared across Europe and beyond, garnering support and hope from countless people. However, as time passed without any solid leads, the investigation faced challenges. The Portuguese police faced criticism over their methods and decisions, leading to the involvement of private investigators. The McCanns themselves hired a team of detectives to look into the case independently, which sparked further controversy. The mix of local police efforts and private inquiries created a complex web of investigation that often seemed at odds with itself. Throughout the years, numerous developments would emerge in the case, including various sightings and tips, all of which were investigated, but none of which led to definitive answers. The media continued to report on new developments, from supposed sightings of Madeleine in different countries to other children who had gone missing under similar circumstances. The attention paid to the case revealed the public's enduring fascination with the mystery of her disappearance, but it also cast a long shadow over her family's grief. As the months turned into years, Madeleine's case transitioned into one of the most well-known missing person cases in history, sparking discussions about child safety and the importance of vigilance in protecting children. Her story became emblematic, often cited in broader discussions about missing children worldwide. It acted as a reminder of the heartbreak and trauma that families endure when a loved one goes missing. In 2011, the case took another unexpected turn when it was reopened by the Metropolitan Police in the UK as part of a review of unsolved cases. This decision was fueled by new lines of inquiry and the hope that modern investigative techniques could shed light on the circumstances of Madeleine's disappearance. The reinvigoration of the investigation offered a sliver of hope for many who hoped for answers. Unfortunately, as the years continued to pass, concrete developments remained elusive, and Madeleine's whereabouts remained a mystery. Several individuals were named as potential suspects, and ongoing investigations occasionally yielded new information, yet none provided the closure that so many longed for. Today, the case of Madeleine McCann remains a poignant and ongoing story. Campaigns continue in her name, and her case serves as a powerful reminder of the vulnerability of children and the importance of community and law enforcement cooperation. The world still holds out hope for answers, even as time moves on, reflecting the enduring nature of parental love and the desire to protect the innocent. The mystery of her disappearance, with all its twists and turns, continues to elicit empathy, curiosity, and a wish for resolution, keeping the conversation alive into the next decade and beyond. In the mid-1980s, California found itself gripped by fear as a figure emerged from the shadows to instill a sense of dread in the hearts of its residents. This figure was Richard Ramirez, infamously known as the Night Stalker. His reign of terror marked a dark chapter in the history of crime, as he went on a violent spree that left a lasting impact on the community. Richard Ramirez was born in El Paso, Texas, in 1960. From an early age, his environment was steeped in chaos, marked by family turmoil and exposure to violence. This shaped his worldview, leading him to develop a fascination with darkness and evil. The brick wall between right and wrong began to blur for him, and the seeds of a troubled psyche were sown. By the time he moved to California in the late 1970s, Ramirez was ready to unleash his disturbing impulses. His first confirmed murder took place in June 1984, and it wasn't long before his horrifying modus operandi became evident. He targeted both men and women, breaking into homes under the cover of darkness. Each crime scene painted a grim picture of his brutality, as he employed a mix of extreme violence and psychological terror to instill fear. During his rampage, Ramirez became known for his unique approach to crime. He often chose houses that appeared vulnerable or were slightly isolated. He would invade these homes, using tools like a tire iron to overpower his victims. The brutality of his attacks shocked the public. He was not only a thief, but also a sadist. He would taunt his victims, sometimes drawing symbols in their blood, leaving behind a haunting reminder of his presence. His choice of victims was indiscriminate, which further fueled the panic sweeping through the neighborhoods. Ramirez was also known for his chilling ability to evade capture. Despite law enforcement's best efforts, he slipped from their grasp multiple times. The media became his unwitting accomplice, as coverage of his crimes sensationalized his actions, allowing him to linger in the public's consciousness. The fear was palpable as residents took extra precautions, installing security systems and forming neighborhood watch groups. This climate of anxiety was palpable on the streets, where whispers about the Night Stalker circulated, each account more terrifying than the last. As the investigation progressed, a series of attacks drew the attention of law enforcement. Each crime bore similarities to the others, hinting at a methodical yet unpredictable killer. Detectives worked tirelessly, collecting evidence and attempting to profile Ramirez, but he remained elusive. His actions led investigators through a frustrating labyrinth of leads and dead ends. In August 1985, his reign of terror reached a tipping point. Ramirez was finally captured by the very community he had terrorized. A group of vigilant citizens recognized him from a police sketch and confronted him. Their bravery led to his arrest, bringing an end to the torment he had inflicted upon many. The horror did not vanish with his capture, as the trials and media coverage revealed the true extent of his crime. The chilling details of the Night Stalker's actions played out in courts, with testimonies that brought families to tears and left an indelible mark on the survivors. Richard Ramirez's trial was a media spectacle, drawing national attention as more survivors came forward to share their stories. He showed little remorse during the proceedings, often smirking at the families of his victims. His demeanor shocked many, as he seemed to draw energy from the chaos he had created. The court became a theater of horror, with evidence laid bare before the world, revealing insights into his twisted mind. Ultimately, Ramirez was convicted of 13 counts of murder, along with numerous other charges. In 1989, he was sentenced to death. However, his story did not end there. He spent years on death row, where he garnered a level of infamy that he seemed to relish. He attracted supporters, some of whom idolized him, which only fueled the chilling narrative surrounding his life. The impact of Ramirez's crimes extended beyond the immediate horror felt by his victims. Communities were reshaped, with increased security and public awareness regarding personal safety. The Night Stalker became a cultural figure, representing the depths of human depravity and the shadows that sometimes lurk too close for comfort. The fear he instigated transformed the daily lives of countless individuals, redefining their understanding of safety and security. Richard Ramirez died in 2013 from complications related to B-cell lymphoma, while still on death row, but the scars of his actions remain. The Night Stalker case serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the importance of vigilance in the face of evil. For those who lived through this dark period in California's history, the legacy of Richard Ramirez is not just a tale of a criminal, but an ongoing reflection on the very nature of fear and trauma. The Grim Sleeper case is one of the most chilling and haunting narratives in the history of crime and law enforcement in the United States. Centered around the actions of Lonnie Franklin Jr., this case remained in the shadows for more than 2 decades, illustrating some of the complexities of urban crime and the challenges faced by detectives. Lonnie Franklin, born in 1952 in Los Angeles, was a man who appeared unassuming on the surface. He worked as a mechanic and lived in the south-central neighborhood of Los Angeles. In many ways, he was just another face in the crowd. However, beneath this ordinary exterior lay a sinister reality. The moniker Grim Sleeper was coined due to the gaps between the series of murders attributed to him, as he seemed to lie dormant for several years during his killing spree, leading investigators and the community to believe the threat had faded. The Grim Sleeper's criminal activities primarily targeted young women, many of whom were involved in prostitution or drugs. The victims were predominantly found in the areas of South Los Angeles, often discarded in alleys or abandoned places, leading police to realize that a predator was roaming their streets. His murders began in 1985, and he continued to evade authorities for nearly 3 decades, creating a terrifying pattern of violence that left families shattered and a community in fear. Detectives faced a long and arduous task in identifying the killer. Initial investigations were challenging due to various factors. Many of the victims were from marginalized backgrounds, often overlooked by society, which created significant challenges in gathering key information. Moreover, the community's distrust of law enforcement impacted the flow of information even further. This led to numerous frustrating years of work where connections seemed elusive and hope began to wane. It was not until 2007, when authorities linked DNA evidence from the crime scenes, that there was a breakthrough in the case. Investigators compared the DNA found on the victims to individuals already in the database. When samples collected from Franklin were matched to the evidence, a chilling connection was made. This marked a turning point. The grim sleeper was no longer a phantom. He was a real person, living just blocks away from where many of his victims had been found. The apprehension of Franklin in 2010 revealed even more disturbing facts. Over the years, he had accumulated a wealth of photographs of women, some of whom had been identified as his victims. This collection further portrayed a deeply unsettling portrait of his psyche. Following his arrest, he faced multiple charges, including 10 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The investigation revealed that Franklin's reign of terror extended further than initially thought, bringing together a multitude of cold cases that investigators believed were the result of a single perpetrator. As the legal proceedings commenced, the media latched on to this story, recognizing the broader implications of the grim sleeper's action. His case raised questions about systemic issues within law enforcement, accountability, and how marginalized communities are often treated. As the community's wounds were reopened during the trial, many families were reminded of their losses. Among the most poignant moments of the trial were the testimonies shared by family members of the victims, revealing a tapestry of lives cut short and dreams unfulfilled. Lonnie Franklin was ultimately found guilty in 2016, sentenced to death for his crimes, a notably fitting, though grim, conclusion to a case that had haunted many for years. His case served as a catalyst for change, fostering discussions on street violence, justice, and better support for disenfranchised individuals. Additionally, it highlighted the need for law enforcement to reevaluate approaches to cases involving vulnerable populations. The grim sleeper case remains significant not only for the criminal acts themselves, but also for the societal response to those acts. It highlights the importance of addressing the fears and challenges faced by communities impacted by crime. In an effort to heal, communities engaged in dialogues about safety, support, and the collective responsibility to care for one another. As we reflect on the narrative of the grim sleeper, we are prompted to consider the layers of human experience involved in criminal acts. The story offers a profound lesson about vigilance, compassion, and the commitment required to build stronger communities. It suggests that while darkness can lurk in the depths of human nature, there is also the possibility of illumination through justice, awareness, and community resilience. The legacy of this case still resonates today, reminding us that every number in a crime report represents a life, a person with hopes, dreams, and loved ones. As we consider these events, it becomes crucial to honor those lost and work towards a society where such tragedies become a thing of the past. The story of the grim sleeper is not merely a tale of horror. It serves as an essential reminder of the resilience of community and the importance of seeking justice and healing in the face of the darkest of times.